All right. Well, I appreciate it, Jeff. I think the best thing is to keep it simple because algae are basically a single cell plant, and so we deal with millions and billions of single cell plants, and our objective is to take innovative technology that's sustainable, and we're turning that algae into products that have economic benefit. And you know, I grew up thinking about how to get rid of all this pond scum and stuff like that, but it actually really does have some value, and there's a lot of activity going on today around converting those single cell plants into valuable products, including transportation fuel, nutritional supplements, as well as animal feed, and they also wind up being a good potential precursor for chemicals. So we have a group of folks who come out of the chemical industry, a lot of engineering type of folks. I'm the lone wolf in that I don't do engineering, but I help poke holes at things. And CFO is really, you know, what it really means is you can find out what's going on. And so you spend a lot of time doing that. This is a picture of a aquaculture facility that we have and that we operate in Arizona. And as you came in this morning and you watched the weather, you probably figure out, you know, this is probably not a good climate today for growing algae. But our headquarters, and we call ourselves RAY, is right here in Johnson City, Tennessee. And what we're doing is taking this technology so that we can take all of the algae that's growing in a pond like this here, or at commercial scale, it'll be in very large ponds, say about 5,000 acres of algae growing, and we'll take all that water and we'll separate the algae from it, and then we'll divide it into oil and then the remaining biomass. So not unlike you think about ethanol, where you have corn coming in, they're fermenting the corn, and you have dried distiller's grain going out the other end that winds up being part of the animal feed system. So we have that in place. Here's what we're trying to do, and oops. Yeah, but here's why algae. And if you think about it, in this picture I wanted to graphically represent why there's an interest from the Department of Energy, why RAY has been awarded $3.8 million over the last several years to work on this. And that is the amount of oil production per acre of land is very impressive. When you look at other terrestrial crops, you see oil production from 50 to 100 gallons per acre. You get into, you know, switchgrass is interesting, potentially up to 500 gallons per acre. Palm oil is 600 and some gallons per acre of oil production, and we have a lot of basically deforestation going on in the Asia Pacific region as palm plantations are being put in to produce oil for renewable fuels. Algae has the capability of producing anywhere from 1,000, and I've seen as many as 10,000 to 20,000 gallons per acre of oil. Now you get up into those very high rates of oil production, and you're talking about a massive amount of capital. We like to focus on the lower end of what nature provides naturally, okay? And so we're using that as a concept. But if you look at soybean is the #1 virgin vegetable oil to be used for biofuel production in the United States. This is some older data. There's 64 billion gallons a year of petroleum distillate was used in the United States in 2007. If you were going to supply half of that using a biofuel, you'd have to plant a huge area of soybean oil. In fact, the area of soybean oil up there is that you'd need to produce in order to meet that demand is greater than all of the crops that were planted in the United States in 2011. So getting there using soybean oil is not a viable option, and that's why a lot of folks are looking at algae. And algae, at about 5,000 gallons an acre, uses considerably less, and so it's more dense production per acre. This is why the Department of Energy is interested in algae as a biofuel source. Now, the interesting part of that is the technology we're working on allows us to be competitive with soybean oil on pricing and still have a good economic return when we're producing at scale. But the other aspect of using our technology is we have, we're going to grow our aquaculture, harvest the algae, and then we'll separate it into different products. And the technology that Ray has allows us to access both commodity markets and specialty markets. On the commodity side, we can look at just selling the biomass, or what we call the defatted algal biomass up there that can go into food products for animal nutrition and so forth. The oil can go into transportation fuel at large volumes, or we can refine that further and go into specialty products for nutritional supplements, beta-carotene, and we have developed a unique process that takes the algae and makes a high protein concentrate protein. So we can get an 85 to 90% protein concentrate out of the algae, and it doesn't smell like you're sitting at the pond. It doesn't taste like algae. It's a very high quality protein. And along the bottom are some of the, we couldn't bring samples here, but I wanted to show we actually do have products of different types. We've got oil, the solid biomass, and some beta-carotene up there. But so Ray has the ability to use this technology to access a number of different markets. And what you want to find, you talk about, is this scalable? And in the case of our technology, it is. Do we have good growing markets? And around the world, we have several markets that we can access with products out of this process that are large and growing. The nutraceuticals market is growing at about a 15% annual rate. And we have two products that we've announced, an omega fatty acid from algae and this protein supplement from algae. And both of those would go into that market. Our technology is very sustainable. We're using, talked about the productivity. Our land is, we're using land that you can't grow crops on, so we're not competing with food. We're using salt water for our process versus fresh water. This past year, it would be nice to know it's drought tolerant because we're using ocean water, and no pesticides. We're using native algae strains, not genetically modified organisms, and we can coordinate this with a solar salt production facility or shrimp aquaculture. And one area that we're exploring along shrimp areas is actually to take the raw effluent from shrimp farms that now just goes out into the ocean and use that as a nutrient source instead of buying other nutrients. So there's a challenge, and what is the challenge? I think that's the real question. To give you a little background, we're at a point where we have products ready to launch, and we really are at the point of trying to raise enough capital to continue to execute on that strategy. And what we found is in this part of the country, our particular technology is not well known. Most people don't think about renewable fuels from algae in East Tennessee, and so where we're running into some challenges for us is really trying to connect with the right capital sources. And some of the things that we've done here, we see a lot of those in other geographic areas, but locally, we've been tied in with the Innovation Lab, working with Dave at the Accelerator Now program, and some of the other folks up here with even Washington County. I didn't get Washington County on here, but we've met with them on the economic development. So we're really tying into a lot of the local resources, networking through those resources, and then also just attending some other national type events where we're connecting with people in other geographic regions. But I think the combination of what I see happening with the synergy between the Innovation Lab, the program Tony's heading up with the Angel Investor Network, and Dave, a lot of those are coming together. We've worked with Ken Ray at the Northeast Economic Development area, and a lot of those have been very helpful to us as we're trying to move forward and meet this need. So, I just say keep on building those resources for the entrepreneurs as we're trying to figure out, and a lot of good, honest feedback that we've received from a variety of folks has helped us in refining our pitch as we're going out and working on raising capital so that we can launch some of these projects. All right.